I do highly recommend that I check that out after when your tour is over. We have a few information on posters in there, along with a guest book that you can sign and tell us how your stay in jail was today. Now, being us is a jail, we have a couple of questions to ask. Have there been any escapes here? The answer to that question is yes. There have been about 33 known escapes at this jail. However, we only have one story for you all today, and that is about the man that fit through this window.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, gee.
Now, this man was sentenced to 180 days in jail for not paying car fines. Now, once he came to the jail, he had a look around. He decided he did not want to stay that long, so he broke the plan to escape. He started to save up on all of his soaps, shampoos, and butters that he was given during shower and meal time, and he wanted a very, very strict diet. When he thought he was skinny enough and that the time was right, he opened up this window, which is on a pivot on the second story of the main cell block. He grabbed a couple of bed sheets and tied them into a rope. He threw that out the window along with a pillowcase full of clothing, and he completely stripped down and he lathered up in all the supplies they had gathered. And he had a cellmate help boost him up out of this window, feet first, so he could shove his head out from the inside. Now personally, I believe it would have been very successful, because there's one tiny little flaw. He did this at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Now there were two women across the street on the porch eating lunch when they saw a naked, wet, and soapy man standing outside the jail wall. Now the ladies decided to phone the warden. However, the warden hung up on them, thinking it was a prank phone call. Now, a few more calls came in. It wasn't until the end of the day he did a head count and found out that there was a prisoner missing. So the warden then sent out a search party, and they found the man 2 hours later in his bed, crying and pleading not to be brought back to jail. He's actually sent to state for this for about 18 months. But the only recent reaction of the story is that this happened in the late 1970s when this man was in his early 20s.
Wow.
Now he saw the jail first open up for tours. He came inside. He said if he could be a free tour, I'll tell you about the time I escaped from jail. I thought it was a really good deal. We took him up on his offer. He wants me to tell you a couple things today. Firstly, he's doing fine and well, and his jail days are far behind him. And secondly, he'll never be fitting through a window this size ever again.
Wow.
I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah, we came in for a tour the other day, so that was really interesting. We will be heading into the main cell block now, so we're going to be going on the right side of the staircase. Check out the first 3 rooms safe house on your right as well. This is just a walkthrough, so please save your sign reading and picture taking until later on. You actually have free room just after your tour is over. Now there is a big step up and step down, so please watch out for that. Last person, please close this door behind you.
You want to walk, Eva? You want to walk? Ooh. 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 Sit with Jag. No.
Now before I do talk about the 3 rooms you just walked by, I'd actually like to point your attention to the one-way window up above. Now this is from a male prisoner's perspective, so like I mentioned earlier, you can only see a reflection of the ceiling. Now that being said, there may be a tour group up there right now, if you want to wave you can. Now the first room that you walk by is actually used as a shower room back in the day. There would be about 5 male prisoners showering at once with a male guard behind the door. Now the second room here is labeled as a laundry room, and 2 of the more trusted prisoners would do laundry there for the entire jail. Now they actually earn about $1/4 an hour, so with that money they could save it up and use it for an extra meal during meal times. Now this third cell here is where the rest of the cells are in the main cell block. A typical cell at this jail was 8 by 13 feet, with about 1 to 4 men in a cell at a time. This is a little bit bigger than some modern jail cells today. Now if I can point your attention to the walls, right across from you. Now you'll see that there are a couple of dark lines, and they lead up to that black box. Now through that black box is the kitchen, and while the inmates would be waiting for their meal, they'd have their backs up against the wall, and over time it would wear away at the paint, so that's why it's darkened in some places and not others. Now when it was their turn to get their meal, they would show their face, give their cell number, and they would then be handed a tray along with only a spoon to eat their meal with. Now both forks and knives were considered as weapons. At the end numbered, so they were all counted and collected. If there was a spoon missing, the entire jail went under a lockdown. You wouldn't be able to enter or leave the building because of this lockdown, because they feared that a prisoner would sharpen it off the floor or walls and then use it as a weapon. Now, do we have any questions about the main cell block so far? Alright, we'll be heading down to the dungeon next. It is a little dark down there, but there's nothing down there to scare you, so if you follow me.
Dungeon. Woo. Whoa. Dark down here, huh, Eva? Woo.
Down here, solitary confinement. This is also known as the jail's jail because of how dark it is and unpleasing. Now, prisoners would be sent down here for disobeying the rules that were given upstairs. An example of that would be stealing a spoon. And when you came down here, the more modern time we know of as a maximum was 2 weeks. However, prisoners were typically only down here for a few days because they wanted to be on their best behavior to be sent back upstairs. Now, as you can see, there are a couple of lights up on the walls. That is the only light that would be in solitary confinement back in the day. And your cell is completely pitch black because light was considered a privilege down here. Now, the back of every cell there actually was a window. Now, that window is boarded up for the reason of light being a privilege. And the second reason was that actually behind that window, you would be ground level with the courtyard. Now, they did not want anyone to pass anything or talk to you because you're supposed to be alone down here in solitary. Now, in your cell, you have a mat to sleep on if you're lucky. Depending on the state of the mat, it was basically like sleeping on the floor. And you have a bucket to use as your toilet. Now, there is one cell out of all 16 down here that is nicknamed the luxury cell. It's this last cell, and we'll be going inside in just a minute. Now, before we do, I would like to point your attention to over here. Now, this is a typical solitary door. At the top, there was a slot for your meal. We don't know how many times a day they were served or what meals they were served, but a few meals would not be able to fit that slot. Now at the bottom there are some smaller holes. This would be for ventilation because this door is about 3/8 of a sheet of iron. Okay, now we will be heading into the luxury cell right here. Just watch your head on the way in.
You got the hiccups. You okay? You got the hiccups?
Now this was called a luxury cell because it was the only cell down here with a sink and toilet. However, this was only added 2 years before solitary confinement was shut down in 1979. The town deemed it no longer safe for humans. Now, a couple of things I want to mention before we do head back out. Like I said earlier, there was a window in the back of every cell, always boarded up. And on the wall, right about over here, there are some shackles hanging up. Now, there would be shackles in every cell. They would actually be towards the back wall to lower down, change the prisoner's ankles almost 24/7. Now, also, just remember that that light in the corridor would not be here back in the day. It was pitch black. And while you're in here, just think about only one person being in the cell at a time. Now, any questions about solitary confinement or a cell? You can head right back out there. I'm going to stay in the middle.
You got the hiccups. Jeez. Hiccups.
Now, just one more thing to mention. As you can see, there are some holes up in the ceiling. Now, these holes would be for 3 huge coal furnaces that were actually lined up right in the middle. That was the only heat source in the entire jail, so the heat would then travel up through the holes to heat the upper layers. It get pretty hot down here in the wintertime, as I'm sure you can imagine. Any questions at all? All right, we'll be heading upstairs to talk about the allowance wires. When we get up there, please have a seat.